Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Expansion Scapes Readings. And this pick a card reading is about what's at the core of your loneliness. So if ever in any way, shape or form you feel loneliness for any reason at all, I will be looking at why this is happening. What's at the core of it? What is the main reason? What is perhaps trauma or wound or your soul's desire? What is at the very, very core of your loneliness? And also I will be bringing messages through on any advice that comes about what to do about the situation, how to transform, heal, and experience life in a happier way, feeling this loneliness, coming from this loneliness. So I will be tapping into 3 collectives for this pick a card reading. And my guides also guided me to use 3 of my drawings for this reading. And the first pile would be this oil painting of mine, which I called Blue Visions. I hope that you can see it because the lighting kind of distorts it, but if you can't exactly make out the images, it's because they're meant to be kind of not clear and could be interpreted in many different ways. The second pile is going to be represented by this pastel drawing of mine of Crater. So check that out with the pink moon. And the third pile is going to be represented by this drawing, also oil pastel drawing of desert. And you can see a vulture here, little green lizard, and a silver full moon. In addition to that, I will be using a single card to represent each pile in addition to the drawings. And if you don't want to watch this process, please go to the timestamps in the description box below. So pile 1 is also going to be represented by this card, the Witness. Okay. The second pile, the second collective, is going to be represented by this card. What is it? The Rainbow. And the third pile is going to be represented by this, the Curse. Wow. Okay. Take your time and see which of these 3 piles feel right to you. If more than one pile feels right to you, then feel free to check out more than one reading. And I will see you at the timestamps. Hi everyone who chose pile 1. Represented by this oil painting called Blue Visions and this card, The Witness. Welcome to your reading. And I'm going to quickly lay out the cards. By the way, if you don't want to watch the shuffling process and laying out the cards, I will put a timestamp so you can just go directly to the reading. But I feel like it's really fun to watch the magic happen. Okay. Okay. So the first 3 cards are going to represent what's at the core of your loneliness. And it's going to be talking about any kind of reasons why, what's at the core, what is the reason? Maybe there's a desire, maybe there has been a trauma or wound, maybe, I don't know. So that is going to be the reason, okay, the core. What's at the core of your loneliness? What is fueling your feeling of loneliness? Okay, and The second set of cards is going to talk about, okay, fell out. Second set of cards is going to talk about, as I said in the beginning, advice. Any kind of strategy to take, any kind of advice, any kind of a way to go or something like that. And there we go. And the third set of cards is going to talk about some kind of an end goal. And I'm being drawn to only pick 2 cards for this. Okay, so this one, oops, sorry, and this one. And they're not actually in reverse because I was shuffling upside down. Okay. Okay, so let me meditate on your cards a bit, and I'll see you in a second. Hi everyone who chose pile 1 and this blue visions drawing and this card, the witness. Welcome to your reading. So what I'm getting here, why you feel lonely sometimes, what is at the core of your emotion of loneliness is, I feel like deep inside, you are an adventurer. There is a sense of adventure. And this adventure doesn't have to be physical traveling, but it could be. There's a desire for different perceptions. So, like, what's at the core, what's driving you? And for example, as you see in this drawing, in this painting, there are different pictures, it seems, and when I painted it, I actually meant things to, like, I knew what I was drawing, but when I asked different people what they see in this painting, they actually see different things. and I actually can't believe it. I'm thinking, what, like, you see this? No, I painted this. I know I kind of made it not clear on purpose, but I really can't understand how they see what they see. So for example, like, there's this human figure and I drew it like it was flying up. And some people see it as if this figure is falling down, and it's like a very different perspective. It's a very different set of emotions. It's a very different, outlook on the world. Or, like, I see this as a forest kind of man, and there's a bird's beak there, and there's 2 eyes and nose and a weird kind of beard. But some people see a bird. Oh, well, now I see a bird too. Okay. And, like, this is a deer, and it doesn't matter, but, the witness card here tells me that you love to, like, this is your sense of adventure, to observe things, and you feel absolutely alive when you see maybe one thing, but you can see different things in it. So, for example, like, maybe someone is having a fight. I don't know why I'm drawn to this example, but, like, someone's having a fight. You witness someone having a fight. And they may be having a fight about maybe, like, what they're gonna make for dinner or something. And this looks like one thing, and you can witness that. But it can also, but you may, like, in your nature is to constantly search for different perspective and perceptions of what you see. So it may be the same thing, but you're constantly trying to you're interested in it, and you have that desire, and therefore you have that ability to actually see one thing always as something different on different levels. So for example, if someone's fighting about like what they're going to make for dinner, for example, you might look at it and think what they're actually fighting about is who's going to cook, maybe. Because maybe somebody wants to cook, somebody doesn't want to cook. And maybe that's what the fight is really about. Who's going to be doing this? And somebody might be wanting to do it. Somebody might be trying to get away from it. Or then maybe like 2 minutes pass, and then you reflect on that fight, and then you might notice that, oh, what the fight was really about, it's like this person just wanted to be heard and seen and appreciated, or, you know, this person needed to be heard and to actually, you know, have appreciation or attention or something like this. Like maybe the fight wasn't about what we're going to cook for dinner, but maybe it was about this person's needs to be heard and seen or something like that. And then maybe 10 more minutes pass by, and then you might look back at that fight and think, oh, what this fight was really about. It was about blah, 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 blah. And you could probably see something new in that fight every time you look at it. It's like this lady here with the 7 of mirrors. To me, the number 7 means imagine a person who never thought about like, oh, you know, what is the purpose of life, or how's this world structured? Imagine a person like that watches the movie The Matrix the first time, for example, or, and they might think, oh my God, like, yeah, the world, you know, could be an illusion, you know, the world is an illusion. It's, even though this idea is not as old as the movie The Matrix, it's a very ancient concept, but we as human beings, we live in this world, and then sometimes we have this realization where, oh my God, nothing is as it seems. Like, we reach a certain stage of our lives, and I think some people call it the awakening, and I think it's a good name for it. So 7, it's like when you realize that something you thought was actually is different, something like that. And she has all these mirrors, like 7 mirrors, and it looks like she just has many perspectives. And she knows that all the new perspectives with which she watches the world or watches herself do something, maybe that fight is not something she observed, but something that, you know, she had that fight, or it doesn't have to be a fight. It can be some kind of, you know, interaction, some kind of an event. And she knows, she is aware that she can look at the same thing and see a new thing again and again and again, but yet that thing, as the mirrors symbolize, you see it's her own reflection. And it's interesting in this picture, it's like the only mirror that is broken, it's the one with her own reflection. The other ones are not reflecting her. And this loneliness to me feels like there is a sense of loneliness when you look at the world and you know that it's a reflection of you. And it becomes a little bit scary. Like, well, where's something else? Where's where's someone else? Like, there's a desire to know somebody who's not a reflection of you somehow. But there is no such thing. They say that our organs of perception, like our 5 senses, are actually just, it's a long time to explain, and if you guys are interested, I'm sure there's a lot of articles on it, but they say that your senses of perception are just telling you, like sending you messages on how you react to something out there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are helping you to know something out there in this universe, reality, physical, non-physical, but it just, your senses of perception are just more information about you, like your reaction to something. So for example, like I'm touching this painting right now, and what I feel is and see is not necessarily what is out there, but I am just registering my reaction to them. Like, oh, I feel something scratchy on my finger, you know, and my eyes feel like they see something that they perceive as blue. So anyway, this, I guess, is going too deep. And I think I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. So there's a kind of loneliness in being able to see many, many, many perspectives, and realizing that you can't get away from yourself, kind of like that, because it's all a reflection of you. And it's sometimes really scary to kind of get to that point. And this Three of Spirals drawing card reminds me of a temple in Cambodia. And it's like, it's so ancient that, you know, the trees already are almost consuming it. Nature is transforming it to something else. And what it makes me think is that I just had this vision of, for example, maybe a long time ago, you were the one who built this temple, and you created this face of this Buddha. And maybe a long time ago, you were the Buddha. And maybe now, in 2000 something, you're standing in this forest, and you're looking back at this face that you carved, perhaps in another incarnation. And in another incarnation, you were this guy, you know? And you, as the witness, you see all, you perceive all. And it's like this face is staring at you, like there's no time. And you guys are just all looking at each other like, oh, I've done this, I've been this, I am this, at the same time as I am not, and I am something else. And it's like, look, it's even if you guys like to do shadow work and analyze yourself and become aware of yourself, aware of what's happening with you, you may be in a habit of looking, diving deep into your past experiences, past traumas, maybe even past life traumas, and you guys see yourself in all these different perspectives. And then you always see things, you always find things that are deeper and deeper and deeper, and always finding meaning. And that is an adventure in a sense, because if you are doing this, it means your heart is longing for it. And on the other hand, it can feel lonely. And the reason it feels lonely, I like this card, how it depicts the reason why it feels lonely. It's like, here it says 9 of Scrolls. And by the way, I'm reading these cards intuitively. I don't look up the meaning. So I just wanted to tell you this. I don't know why. So I see her, like 9 is like almost the end of a journey, the last step of the journey to get to somewhere very different. And this girl is like, well, all these scrolls are on the floor. They're like, I know I've seen this perception, and I've seen this side of things, and I've seen this side of things, and I've seen so many. And, but there is some kind of a deep, deep calling for, like one truth or something. Like, but I just want to see one truth. And then she knows that, but one truth is, you know, can be perceived in a million ways, and they're all true. But there's a frustration, like, yes, but I just want to see one truth. And then she just gets so frustrated. I feel like the wings she has is perhaps like the many adventures, the many stories she's gone through, many experiences she's gone through, many perspectives she's been able to see, even just within herself. is just so heavy, and she's just so tired, and she just drops her head. She just falls down, drops her head, and like flops her face on this thing. And then I feel like she actually flopped her face on the truth. But at this time she doesn't realize it yet, because it's just 9. It's not 10 yet, but it's like done, the end of the journey kind of thing. And I'm going to tell you this example, what my husband says. If this is not, if you guys are not resonating with like the spiritual way of always looking into things, although I'm sure you actually are, like to relate this message to more like an everyday physical kind of thing, I'm drawn back to fights. So let's say, like my husband tells me this, well, many people call him to fight, to find a resolution to people fighting. And when he listens to everybody, he says, well, everybody's right. I understand him, why he's doing this, he's right. I understand why she's doing this. I understand why they're doing this. I understand everybody's right. He says, everybody's right. Yeah, they're having a fight, but everybody's right. And he says, and you know what? We can't change everything if everybody stays right. We can't solve this if everybody stays right. So it feels like, even in the world scheme of things, like, yeah, everybody has their own story and their truth. And we can feel like, yes, okay, you're beautiful, you have your own truth. But then somehow, some way, all these different truths, like conflicts of truths, you could say, when we have these different perceptions, we end up being in conflict with each other. So I feel like this card portrays that frustration, that on the one hand, okay, everybody has their own truth and everybody's right. Then on the other hand, we end up in situations where there's pain and suffering. So what do we do? And it's a frustration. And sometimes there's a desire for some kind of someone else to come through, or like a truth to come through and say, okay, right, I'm going to tell you what to do. This way. But we know it's not actually going to happen. So to summarize, I feel like the feeling of loneliness is actually another side of the coin of the drive to experience things in a new way, in a deeper way. And the loneliness is the call for a new perception, a deeper perception, a deeper awareness. And in this whole journey, sometimes we can get frustrated when we realize that, well, I am the universe and the universe is me. But it feels lonely, even though we see billions of people. And there's a desire, like, for someone else that feels really, really, really someone else, I hope this makes sense. And with these advice cards over here, I'm getting that, with this wild woman card, I think the artist drew like one heart, but I keep seeing 2 hearts within her, and then there's even a 3rd heart. And to me, hearts represent desire. And she, it's like she has many, many, many desires. She's an adventurer, as I said, searching for new experiences, and always in a dance of perhaps meeting different desires. And she's looking at this black moon. And it feels like she's longing for something that is one, or something that is not within herself. And it reminds me of a time when I started to have more psychic perceptions after my near-death experience, and I felt that light that people talk about when they see in their near-death experiences. I haven't seen it during my near-death experience, but I've seen it afterwards. And it's like a light that you can't describe what it is, but it's love. It's all knowledge and wisdom in the world. It's just unconditional and unending love. And it's just like you just want to be there all the time. And to me, when I was there, I felt like it was not me, you know? It was really like, it felt like I was seen, and like it knew me and it loved me. And I just really felt that this light is, you know, not me. But on the other hand, I felt like it was partly me, because I was a part of the light rays somehow. And I guess I'm trying to convey that desire when you're longing for that light. And, but here it's black. It makes me think of how we come to that light again, let's say if we're not in the physical experience. And I don't think we need to be dead or near dead, to see that light, because I saw it afterwards, actually. We can always have a connection with that light. But we choose to actually, you know, kind of close it up and pretend like we forgot about it, because we came here to have an adventure. It's like you're longing for something, but that thing is completely invisible, and you get to almost like, I feel like there are no words to this, but it's like the dance of life. It's like she comes into this world, into this physical, and she just dances with herself, perhaps, only to find that she was always dancing with that light. And she was that light. And I guess the advice card here says that to explore your relationship with this nature of yours, of wanting more self-awareness and deeper levels of perception, understanding, revelations, constant change, constant renewal of your beliefs and desires and everything. It's like you're constantly being reborn all the time, and it's exciting. And the advice card says, explore your relationship to this part of you, this nature of you, and find in yourself where you're okay with it, you know, where you're good with it. Like heal your relationship with that part of you. And here we see the eagle, and there's the black moon again. But I know it's not a moon, but I don't know, it's a black circle. So to me, it feels like, you know, we always say that the eagle, we often say that the eagle symbolizes somebody who sees very far away, and other things. But right now I see, that he's flying over this earth, and this earth is not stable. It's in a state of transformation. And yeah, he's looking at it from far away. And he's once again kind of looking at that black moon, which is not a moon, but doesn't matter. And this advice card tells me that instead of looking at something in different ways, with different perceptions that already exists, turn your gaze, turn your attention, and turn that gift and natural ability of yours, natural desire of yours, to earth. To manifesting, to what you want. So not looking at something that already has been created and already exists in your life, but towards something that doesn't, and something that you want, and looking at your desire for something, for some kind of experience. Like, what do you want to experience? What do you want to see, you know, playing out? What kind of story you want to see? What do you want to, and I'm sensing here, it's like it's using this nature of yours to be able to go deeper and deeper and deeper and see different perceptions, levels of perceptions and awareness, and use that gift to actually manifest something. And this ego is looking here, and everything's turning around, everything's churning, and he is looking within and looking at this darkness, yet it is the light, and seeing that he's the creator. And he gets to create now. So using your gifts and abilities not to analyze things only, but to now turn your focus on creation, on manifesting. What do you want? What do you want to experience? And as it comes to some kind of creation, you can tweak it and tweak it and tweak it, and that becomes a whole different game. And that becomes somehow less lonely. And here we have a sacrifice. And this card to me tells, if this card says create, manifest, this card tells me, we know that when you manifest, guess what happens? Something needs to be, in order for one thing to be created and exist, for that thing to exist, all other things need to be sacrificed. All other things need to be let go of, at least for that instant when this thing exists. To actually go into the physical world now that you have maybe had an experience of diving very, very deep into the non-physical. And they're like, you can go to the physical now. And, 4 + 4 is 8. And all these spirals here, it makes me think of infinity. And you're not really sacrificing something forever, because you're going to have chances again and again and again to create something new. So when you're sacrificing other things in order to create one thing, you're just doing it for that instant. And I feel like, time is, as they say, time is becoming faster, speeding up. So you might see that, and especially in the next year, it's going to be faster and faster and faster. And like our manifesting abilities are going to be somehow, greater and faster and more effective. So they're saying like, it's okay if you just create one thing at a time or something, because you're just gonna keep doing it again and again and again. And somehow here I feel loneliness dissipating, because you are embodying not only the creation now, but the creator. And I feel like some kind of a golden warm light is going through her. And she created this butterfly, which looks like an orange to me anyway. Butterfly made out of oranges. And it just feels really warm and satisfying. Like there's warmth inside her. And these are the 2 cards that I drew like for some kind of, I don't want to say like an end journey, because I don't think there's an end to it. Like there's always a end and a beginning, but kind of like towards what is the advice pointing to, I guess, something like this. And I see this toad, and now that I look closer to it, I see those little babies there, tadpoles, the little tadpoles in the river, and I see this toad, and I feel like as the mother, and everything is green, like very earthy and nurturing. And this river reminds me of a river of time at the bottom, or a river of memories. Like, I think it's at the bottom of the tree of Yggdrasil. It doesn't really matter, but I feel like it's like the memories of all the lives and all the things that you have experienced before. Like, this is the river of memories, but also it's the river that gives birth to new babies, like tadpoles. Because and she is the one creating it. And she is also the one contemplating on it, as if she is not that, but she is also that. And it's like there's a feeling of, like, if in the beginning there's a feeling of blue, like coldness or something, now there's a feeling of peace and appreciation and connection to earth, and being feeling very secure, and feeling stable and feeling satisfied. Yet in this process of transformation, feeling grounded. Yeah, I guess I forgot to mention, but this river of time and memories, it's like they flow, but when they flow through our perception, it's kind of like, I feel like they recycle and they create new things again. And I feel like the green color is of that of the heart, and it's, anyway, to me, it talks about having constantly realizing that something is let go of, and then recycling kind of in your heart, and from that comes new creation. And the cave, to me, seems once again like the frog is looking at the cave, it seems even. And it's like we're going through some tunnel towards some light or something. But it's like it's really the journey and not really the destination. Oh, it's like they say there's light at the end of the tunnel. And she seems so peaceful. She's like, I know there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm enjoying the tunnel. I am enjoying me in the state, and I am enjoying me as the light at the end of the tunnel. And I am enjoying all things at the same time. And this tunnel is purple, violet kind of color and blue. And it makes me feel like, it's going towards a higher consciousness of being aware of all, or at least not all, but like a lot of the different levels of our consciousness, and just basking in this pleasure of being in all states at the same time, even though we physically we need to choose, like the sacrifice card. Okay, we're doing things one by one, but it's like if we want to, we can always switch our focus to this light, or to our physical experience, or towards contemplating what we want, the tunnel, and towards things we choose to see and choose not to see at this time, to focus our experience on one thing and not another, and just becoming the creator of our experience and the creation too. So if, I hope this reading made sense, because this reading is about loneliness, and what's at the core of when you feel the emotion of loneliness. And this is the message that came through. And I hope it resonated. I hope it gave you some sense of pleasure, joy, and knowledge, wisdom, courage, encouragement, and just desire for, to live and be happy and heal and enjoy everything. Okay. So if you liked this reading, I would really appreciate it if you click the like button and the subscribe button. This way I would know that someone out there likes this, and this would give me an encouragement to do more videos like this. And actually there's another video which the link to which is in the description box below, which is me diving deep into my emotion of loneliness, and using shamanic journeying, and using my psychic and physical perceptions, and just being vulnerable and doing this on YouTube. My intention was to share my experience, and I feel like it can help others to also go deeper and deeper and deeper within, and be able to heal the things that come up for healing, and be able to enjoy the things that come up for joy. If you'd like to book a shamanic healing session with me, you can email me at expansionscapes@gmail.com and set up an appointment. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you again. Bye. Hi everyone who chose pile 2, this picture of the crater and this card called the rainbow. And this is the shuffling process for your reading. Yeah, I just sat down. So if you don't like to watch the shuffling process, there is a timestamp in the description box below to go directly to the reading. And if you like watching the shuffling process, here it is. Okay, so the first 3 cards, and we have 2 cards here. First 3 cards are going to be about the core of your emotion of loneliness. The core. What's at the core of your emotion of loneliness? What is the reason? What is the... I don't know. The core. I keep thinking that there's another word, but I feel like the core is a good word. Okay, so this is what's at the core of your loneliness. And when you feel the emotion of loneliness. And the second level of cards is going to talk about, hope you can see the cards, okay. It's going to talk about the advice, like any kind of advice on what to do about it when the emotion of loneliness feels like it's bringing pain and suffering and doesn't feel good. What advice is coming through for pile 2? Okay, so there we go. And the last level of cards, and I feel like this one wants to come out. I'm gonna do 3 cards this time. It's like kind of like where the wind is blowing, like where the advice cards are trying to take you, kind of like that. Okay. I feel like, I don't know, but I feel like this card wanted to come out. I don't know why so many cards are coming out, but okay. I'm gonna take it. So, I feel like they're supposed to be like this. I don't know why, but they are going like this. Peacock is gonna be at this. There we go. Okay. So, I'll see you in the reading. Hi everyone who chose pile 2, and this picture of crater and this card, the rainbow. So, I meditated on your cards, and with these 2 pictures here of the crater and the rainbow, I'm drawn to the sun, and 4 + 1 is change. And there's a parrot with the rainbow, and it makes me feel of the think about the contrast of one light, let's say the white light, and then when there's how you call it, a prism. When the light goes through a prism, you get all like different colors. You get 7 colors, and it tells me like there is someone, but they have many different experiences, and of the same thing, it feels. Perhaps you like to travel, or perhaps you like, the parrot makes me think about exotic countries. And perhaps you like to travel, or just to just have different experiences in other ways, not traveling. And this card, actually it's supposed to be a card, but not right now, it's just a drawing of a crater. This drawing makes me feel actually quite lonely. Opposite to this card, which is this is the moon, a pink moon. And I know the moon didn't cause the crater, right? The moon didn't fall down, but whatever fell down created the crater. And it feels to me like a reflection of what happened, of an experience. So this card tells me that there is a desire to have many different experiences. And this card tells me that there is a desire to reflect upon what happened. But when you reflect upon what happened, it feels like a sad experience, because something is like gone and done, but it feels quite kind of like something is missing. And that feels to me like that's the core of your loneliness. Like, why do you feel lonely? And it's even if you have it feels like your life is full of experiences, but yet why do you feel so lonely when you reflect upon your experiences? And the Sojourner here. So these three cards are the ones talking about the core of your loneliness. Like, what's at the core? What is the root cause of your loneliness? And the Sojourner is, somebody who travels, somebody who stays in different places for a short time, like a foreigner, a traveler, stays for a bit and leaves. So he doesn't have a lot of baggage, he just has a little bit, whatever, he needs to travel. And over here, I see the Green Man. So here I'm drawn to the roots of the Green Man and the kindness, and like he's paying attention to all the little stories happening in the forest. Like these, poppy flowers have a life of their own. And they almost tell me like a feeling, like a kind and trance kind of feeling in this forest area of like kindness and mutual love. And there are many, many stories happening in one picture, like this bird with the eggs, this mother taking care of her eggs, her future children. And, there's the butterfly having its own experience, and there are many, many leaves, and each leaf has its own life. And to me, it feels like the Green Man, he's involved with everyone, and everyone is involved with him. But it's almost like his roots go everywhere, and he's ever present. He's present everywhere in the forest, but it's almost like he's invisible, And there's a certain sadness to it. It's like when you, it's like, it tells me of like two sides of the same coin, or two sides of the same story. On the one hand, there's the Sojourner who has a desire to, go and have many, many different experiences in different places, like short-term experiences, an experience that has an ending. And then you go to another place. And then you go to another place and you experience new things. Just like the Green Man here is experiencing many stories at the same time in the forest. And they are experiencing him. I can't talk. Okay. The root cause of the emotion of loneliness that you feel is a resistance to sticking to one thing. Sticking to one place, sticking to one project, perhaps. It feels like you could have a lot of desire and experience of, well, I already said about traveling. And there feels like, I feel like if you are traveling a lot, you probably went to some places, maybe exotic places, and you saw people living in very different ways. Like maybe there's a traditional village somewhere, and you visit it, and you go and think, oh, I wonder how it would be to live in this village, your whole life. Like, how does that feel? And you try to feel and imagine. And then you're like, well, okay, time to go. And then you go to another place. I wonder how these people live in this, unusual city, like, how do they live here? I wonder how they experience this life. And then you go to another place. Oh, I wonder how it is to be this guy, or I wonder how it is to have this profession, or I wonder how it is to have maybe marriage and kids, just an example. You could be married with kids, but let's say maybe you have a lot of ideas of different kinds of projects, different ideas for different books or different things you could engage yourself with. But there is a kind of resistance to actually sticking to one of them. It feels like there's a fear that if I stick to one thing, let's say if I stay in one country or if I stay in one house, I'll have to have these things that seem to be drowning me and pulling me down. Like, I'll have to have an apartment or a house and a garden and a car. And, and then I think there are a lot of kind of assumptions that, I don't, like, those things can drag me down psychologically, mentally, and materially. I'll have to actually take care of the house. I'll have to actually buy stuff for the house. And I don't feel the need to buy so much stuff for a house. And I'll have to keep fixing it. And I'll have to keep fixing my car. But right now it feels so much lighter to have no house, no car, no garden, because I can just stand up and go wherever I want. But if I have a house and a car and maybe a stable job, then it's really hard to just go and have new experiences. It feels like no freedom. It feels like death. Here, Ariadne with death. And, it's like, even though she saved that man, Theseus, eventually he left her on some island. Like, it didn't end good. I feel like she was saving him from, going and into the center of the labyrinth and sticking to something. But actually in saving him and not allowing him to, get to the center of whatever scary thing that he was gonna face, it didn't end up well anyway, kind of like that. And it's like a fear of, it feels like a resistance or avoidance to get to some center of something and stick to it, stick to a project, perhaps. If you have many ideas of many projects, there's a resistance to stick to a project, because there's a kind of fear that, what about all the other ideas and what about all the other projects? And, it means I have to let them all go or something like that. And there's a kind of fear of you associating yourself with only one project then, and that feels very limiting. Like, no, I am not only this one project. I have so many ideas. I don't want to do only one project because I'm not that only one project. I am all the colors of the rainbow. I am not just green or yellow or blue. I am all the colors, can't you see? And it doesn't matter if, like, it's others' perception or your own perception, but there's a feeling like, resistance or like this fear of, sticking to one thing because it feels like your experience of life will be limited. But yet there's the core of the loneliness is that you long for that connection with something permanent, grounded, real, tangible, somehow permanent. However permanent anything can be, right? And another example comes up, like, for example, perhaps there's a fear of, if we're talking about a relationship and not projects or career, perhaps there's a fear and resistance to actually being, involved with someone for a long time, like a commitment. perhaps marriage. And perhaps this is not even a conscious fear, but there seems to be, it could be like a fear of, oh, but if I'm going to be with one person, it's just like having a house and a car and staying in one place. Oh, but I'll be limited. Like, I won't be able to have, romantic experiences with anybody else then. Or I won't be able to do so many things that I used to do because I'll be married. Or if I'll stick to this relationship thing, I might have kids, and having kids means, it's like this green man. Many people, like if I stay in a city, I will start to be involved with more and more people, and my relationships will start growing real, and permanent. And I will be involved with all these people, all these relationships, or with this job that I have that I've chosen, like one thing. Or I will be involved with so many stories of, I'll have to take care of my kids if I want to have marriage and kids. I'll be so involved in their lives, in my partner's life, if I ground myself, it's like I might disappear, like this green man. He's hardly visible because he's everywhere, but yet he's felt everywhere. And there's a magical sense of connection with the green man here. And this I feel is at the root, the core of your emotion of loneliness, is that there's a desire for connection, but also there's a resistance against it. And that is the key thing that I feel here. And let's look at the advice cards here. The Ghost Dance, Beauty Way, and the Serpent. And the Ghost Dance tells me that the advice here is to actually dive into yourself and ask, why the resistance? Resistance to what? Whether it's a project or relationship or a place to stay, a country, a location. I don't know what else in life we do. So here it says there is a story, and it says, check out the story, dive deep. You can ask someone else to help you, or maybe have a shamanic journey, or maybe, actually I have a video which is connected to this video where I dive into my emotion of loneliness using my, shamanic, practices, my psychic and non-psychic perception, and I dive in without pain and suffering, and I realize what is the core of my loneliness. You might enjoy it because the intention is to heal, And this card is telling me, dive deep, look at your resistance in the eyes, and ask yourself, what is it that I'm really afraid of? Or what is it that I'm really resisting? And is this story true? Perhaps before that was a real story. Maybe before, whether in this life or in another life, maybe you did feel invisible. Maybe you stayed somewhere in a village or, in a town, in a city, and you had a very grounded life. Maybe you had a large family that you were taking care of, but you also loved, right? Maybe you had many friends who all needed you, and you were all, spending a lot of time with them, but also you loved them. Maybe you had a farm and a house and like some kind of a job where you had to really dive in and just really, really do one thing. Maybe you were a shoemaker and you were just, doing shoes. And then somehow you felt that like somehow maybe you disappeared in it. Or somehow maybe you were labeled as this one thing, like a shoemaker, And there is something inside of you that said, no, I'm not just only a shoemaker, I am all 7 colors of the rainbow. Or maybe you felt like you were invisible. Maybe you felt like you disappeared into the town. Maybe you felt like you disappeared into your house, or you spent too much energy on fixing your house and taking care of all these stable things that come with physical life, and a choice to stick to something, one thing, ground yourself in one thing. And maybe there was a traumatic experience indeed, where you actually felt lost, or somehow limited, or somehow not free, and somehow maybe too stuck in that situation. And the cards are telling you that, the reading is telling you that it's time to let it go. It's okay to let that go, because that is the truth of not today, but is the truth of previous times. And now it can be wisdom. Now it can be transformed to a history, to a wisdom, like this lotus flower. And you can fly. And you can start something new. And it doesn't mean that history will repeat itself. Perhaps at that time, that's what actually happened. And it was very limiting. It felt horrible. But today, you are in a new place, at a new time, and with a huge baggage, which is invisible, but a baggage of wisdom, which is not a baggage. It's like a treasure, baggage versus treasure. And it doesn't even have any weight. But you have the wisdom where things did go wrong. And perhaps this journeying, this diving deep, the shamanic journey or something, you can do or get help doing, can show you exactly what happened, and you can heal it. And it doesn't have to follow you around anymore in the shape and form of resistance and fear to sticking to one thing. If you hear weird noises, my cat is snoring very loud. This card is telling me that once you find that story that's still alive in you, that pain that is still alive in you, and I feel like it has to do a lot with limits and boundaries too. Like, yes, I can stay in a house, but it really does not mean that I have to have a gigantic house with maybe a lot of furniture. Maybe it doesn't have to be the way it was or the way everybody else does it. It's like, in healing your limits and boundaries, I feel you can also have friends, a lot of friends, or family, or a marriage where things don't have to be the way everybody else does it and feels limiting. And like, for example, if you get married, we assume that, I mean, this is not for everybody, but let's say we have a commitment, we have a permanent partner. Does that, if having, romantic experiences with, like, an open marriage is your thing, okay? Maybe you're gonna find a partner who actually wants to do this, and you're gonna feel fantastic doing it. But before, or even now, somehow it feels like, oh, if I, get married, I'll never be able to even look at another person again and appreciate their beauty ever, which is really in your hands. It's your freedom. If you'd like, you can find a partner who will enjoy the same things as you, and it's possible to actually have, experiment with an open marriage. Why not? And I'm, perhaps this only applies to like 2% of the collective here, but I just had to say it. Or sometimes we think that, oh, if I get married, I will, have a very boring life. I'll just have this limited life. But actually, if you stick to one thing, to one marriage, and I have experience talking I'm married, so I find that after I got married, I realized that marriage is actually a huge adventure, and it really depends on you, on how you experience the adventure. There's a lot of diving deep. There's a lot of exploration. There's a lot of experimentation. There's just so much freedom if that's what you want and if that's the partner. I mean, obviously you guys need to talk about it with the partner, but it just really doesn't mean, okay, let's just lay down and die, because I hear at least a lot of people talk like this. Oh, marriage, okay, it's the end of the world. No, it's not. It's a journey you choose, and you can have a crazy, fantastic, colorful rainbow journey. But if we heal those assumptions from the past, assumptions, beliefs, traumas, wounding, whatever it is, if we let that rest, we open ourselves like this dragonfly flying free. And it feels like, she's going to come back to this flower and she's going to fly and have her life or whatever. And then, she might come back here and sit somewhere else. It's like, it's the discovery of freedom in choosing one thing. And, it's like diving deep into like one experience. But when you jump in one experience, you realize that, oh my God, this one experience actually has so much to offer. This one project actually has so much to offer. And, I can't think that, oh, now everybody's gonna call me only this because I decided to do, maybe like a shoemaker because I decided to make shoes. But it's like, well, it's their reaction, Okay, they can call you, or like if you decide to program games or something, oh, now I'm gonna be labeled as a game programmer, but I also can paint, and I also write, and I also do this, and I also do this, but I'll be labeled as a as a game programmer or something. Well, that label will be, it's not yours. Someone can label you if they like. That's the part of their life experience. It doesn't have to be yours, but it can be yours in a limited way if you allow it to be, if you don't let these things rest, the past. So it's really, it's like the advice here is embrace your freedom, beauty, way, embrace your freedom. Lotus talks about enlightenment. It's like, it has many petals, and I feel like, there's unity and there's multitude at the same time. And this serpent here, if you look closely, there's the head and there's the head, or maybe it's two serpents. I don't think it really matters, but there's a head going that way and there's a head going that way. And it feels like one serpent and like one sun behind, or one something behind. And it feels to me like the message is this: there's love anywhere you go. So like any project, and these leaves to me like just symbolize different projects or different ideas, different places you could go. But it feels like loneliness here comes from not choosing any of them, always being on the move. The loneliness, going back to this crater, it's like, okay, I moved, but it feels like some kind of emptiness. Like, yeah, I have photos, I have maybe a tattoo from this place, or I have a scar from that place, or I have I don't know, memories of the journey taken, but somehow it feels empty because it's like, it's not alive still, but it could, like, your loneliness is kind of calling you to have something that you do, like stick to it, live with it, don't drop it, and actually stick to it. And you're gonna realize that, like, the photos of your experiences will start to be actually alive because you're living, and they're happening in the now. They're transforming, and they're transforming you. And it doesn't have to be, somehow limiting. It doesn't have to be. You are free. You are free even if you choose one thing. But in choosing one thing, you will gain a sense of connection, an inner, deeper connection of love. And it will feel free if you inject freedom in your connection. That's what I'm being told right now. You will feel free if you inject freedom in your connection. Yeah. And these 4 cards are like telling me, like kind of like the end, not an end of the story, but kind of like the goal, and not even a goal, but something like where it could take you, I guess, where it could take you if you do follow this advice. So here I'm being shown, like, look at the bee. The bee seems to have found a balance, that the bee goes and visits many, many, many flowers, but yet it comes home and it creates honey and it takes care of its family and it has a deep connection to the hive and all her life there, the honeybee. So she found a way how to be a traveler, how to have many experiences, but also how to have a deep, meaningful connection to something. And that's in her nature, you know. I don't know, the bee, okay. There's the cat, and it tells me of the cat has 9 lives, but it's still one cat. I just went as far as this, but like, it's like some kind of balance, like, oh, I have 9 lives, but I'm still one, or like I have many bodies, or I have many experiences, but it's still me, kind of like this, a connection to me. And the peacock just, it reminds me of the tail, where it has many, many, many spots on the tail, but it's still one tail. It's connected to one peacock. You know, it's still me. And this hair feels to me like, you know, it finally found home. And all these spirals are symbolizing that there is still movement, there is still growth, there is still, you know, transformation and more self-awareness and discovery and life. But this hair feels at peace, at home, warm, nurtured, safe, loved, not alone anymore, but surrounded by something loving and nurturing, maybe a family, maybe a project, whatever it is, but maybe a location, a house, I don't know, different things, but the hair feels like a belonging, a home, a safety. It feels like he's in the womb, you know. To me, it feels really, really, really nice. And he's even in the fetus position. So, it's like, it's telling, and then going back to the snake, there's love anywhere you go. And I feel like, you know, the main ingredient is you. Inject freedom into your choices, and then the choice will not feel limited. It will be free, because you create your experience, even if you have chosen to stick to one thing. You're the freedom maker here. Yeah. I needed that message too. So, thank you guys for watching. This is it for this reading. If you guys want, there's another video that I made where I personally take a journey into the core of my loneliness. And my intention for that is to help and to be vulnerable on camera, discover something that is normally assumed to be painful and maybe a taboo to discuss, but I just honestly took a dive into my emotion of loneliness, and I feel like some parts of my story would resonate with other people and some would not, but my intention was to just share that this kind of things can happen without pain and suffering, and it can lead to healing, transformation, self-discovery, and just moving on in a new and free, amazing way, allowing us to be more authentic and have a more wonderful experience in this life. And if you'd like to book a shamanic healing session with me, you can email me at expansionscapes@gmail.com. And if you like this video, please click like and subscribe. Please comment. I'm grateful for connecting with you. I love these messages as well. Thank you so much, Pile 2 people. Have a great journey, and I hope to see you in another reading. Goodbye. Hi, everyone who chose Pile 3. And this drawing of the desert and this card that says the curse. Welcome to the shuffling part of your reading. If you'd like to skip the shuffling part, you can go directly to the timestamp of Pile 3 reading. Okay, so once again, this reading is about what's at the core of your loneliness. The emotion of loneliness. When you feel the emotion of loneliness, what is the deepest, most relevant reason that would benefit for you to know about? And these 3 first cards are going to be talking about the core, the root of your loneliness. Okay? And the second set of cards is going to be talking about I'm asking for advice, what to do once we know this root. What do we do? What can we do to get in a state of less pain and suffering and more pleasure, joy, health, love, life, light. So these are going to be your advice cards. Feel like I have to shuffle these ones. I don't know, it's really weird. It's like I feel like there's an indecision, but then also like choosing or something like that. I don't know. Counsel. Okay. Okay, these 2 cards. The mystical shaman and the arrow. And the last 2 or 3 cards, I'm not sure. It will be, where if you follow the advice, what kind of, maybe a goal or like an endpoint that you can achieve. Not that our journeys have an end in a limited way, but what can you expect to feel or reach if you follow these advice cards? Okay, so I feel like taking these, and there you go. Okay, I feel like they're supposed to be like this. Okay, so this was the shuffling process. I'll see you in the reading. Hi, everyone who has chosen Pile 3, this image of the desert that I drew in oil pastels, and this card of the curse. And as I was meditating on your cards, I was just like, whoa, this is just like a straightforward message that keeps repeating itself in every card. And I don't know, I was drawn to looking at the time when I just clicked play on my camera. It was 11:22, And then when I sat down and just decided to check that it's really recording, it was 11 seconds of recording. And we have these number synchronicities here too. It's like everything's just really, really strong, short, sweet, direct, and just like the same message keeps repeating itself again and again and again and again. And it's just really cool. And I felt like I felt like there wasn't enough light. And I just added more light. If you can see, like, this is very bright now. Yeah, so I'm going to start with these cards, but I'll be going back and forth between the drawing and the cards. So, the Sojourner, actually this card came out in a previous reading. But as you saw, I shuffled the cards on camera and it came out again, but it makes, anyway, it makes total sense here in a different way. So, the Sojourner is a person who is a traveler and who stays somewhere for a short amount of time and goes somewhere else and stays somewhere else a short amount of time. So this is a traveler, okay? And Merlin, the hero, it says here. And here we have Seven of Stones. And these three cards are supposed to talk about the core, the root of why you feel an emotion of loneliness whenever you feel the emotion of loneliness in any way, shape, or form that you feel it. So here it says this, look, you've been a traveler, okay? You've experienced a bunch of stuff. You have experienced stuff as a consumer of experiences, as a perceiver of experiences, a lot, like really a lot, it feels to me. Really been there, done that, like that. Yeah, I've traveled, or even if it wasn't physical travel, perhaps not in this life, but you have a rich collection of experiences, even if it was all in the same city or anywhere. On the other hand, here's Merlin, the magician. Okay, I'm reading these cards intuitively, so you have also been the creator. You have been the consumer of experiences, and you have also a rich experience, a rich, experience of being the creator. Maybe it talks about actual business, like you have been the consumer and you have been the producer, the creator. But also it's like the creator of your experiences. I feel like you're very good at manifesting, like you have it down, like you can manifest pretty much whatever, anything. It feels like you're good at it and you've done it a lot and you know it and you know you got it down and you know you can be the experiencer and you can be the creator. It's like, wow, you know, it's okay. So and here in this card, I just have to say it, but this girl reminds me of Rory Gilmore from the Gilmore Girls, if you guys ever watched the series. And if not, never mind. She's a teenager, okay? I feel like she's a teenager who sat down to reconsider her life. Like, and the seven here, the number 7, this is a card, 7 of Stones, okay? I feel like she's being she feels like a little bit in a prison, or like something is pushing on her, because she, and 7 to me talks about a time of some kind of a reconsideration, a new perception, a new awakening, where when you realize that something is not as it seems, actually everything is different. Kind of like in the Matrix when, I forgot Neo, I forgot. Anyway, Keanu Reeves got this information that, look, it's all an illusion. And he's like, whoa, you know? So, actually, I don't remember the movies. I watched it a long time ago, but it's a card of, 7 to me, it's like a number of, when you just realize, oh my God, everything I feel like everything is not what it seems, and I feel like I'm kind of bored of the previous stuff. And it feels like your loneliness could be partly because you already are, you may be just kind of bored. You've been there, done that. You know how to create things. And now it feels like your loneliness is represented here by the water. And all of these plants here make me feel like as if, as if they are evergreen, like fern and whatever these are. But I'm not sure. Maybe they're roses or maybe some. I thought they were berries at first. Okay, I need glasses. But it's like something about evergreen and something about being young and something being reborn again. And 7 is realizing that not the things that seemed like this are actually not. Like nothing is as it seems. I'm about to change my perception on everything. And like there's a desire to change your perception on everything. There's a desire for another awakening, even if you've had 55 of those or 555 billion of those, whatever. But it feels like it's time for something like an awakening. And it reminds me of the actual movie where Rory is a teenager who gets like the best education that she can get at that time in her place. And she has so much support and she's hardworking and, it feels like she's done everything by the book. It feels like she should be successful. It feels like, hey, look, I've done everything. I've traveled, I've created. Come on, I should be happy by now, like what's going on? And, but there's this feeling of loneliness. So, I think, we are all familiar by now with how sometimes when after graduating, we sometimes realize that, like, what am I supposed to do now? Actually, some of us realize that I think life is about something else. So I feel like your sense of your emotion of loneliness may come from this desire for something very different. And here I feel like the loneliness is depicted in this water, and this water feels very free and new and fresh, but also like a memory. So, and it's going left, and it feels like the your feeling of loneliness is calling you to connect, as cliche as it sounds, but to connect to yourself, to your past, in fact, to your very, very ancient past. And as I said, your reading is so straightforward. Oh, right. So, I forgot about this drawing and the curse. So, yeah. So the drawing and the curse says that, look, you've been there, done that. Okay. You've been to the tough places in the desert, the red color. You have been to maybe the white sand beaches, you have, you know how to survive because look at the vulture. The vulture knows how to survive in the desert, the lizard knows how to survive in the desert. Lizard even looks really happy, like optimistic, and, but yet it's like a feeling of power that, yeah, I know how to survive in tough times, in all types, they're all different colors. And there's the curse, but yet there's a need for change. Number 5 here. Something needs to change. And I see this hand on. I really don't feel like, oh, you guys got a curse, you guys gotta go to, like, remove the curse. Now, I really don't feel like that. But I feel like the important thing is there's a hand on her mouth. And, like, there's something that needs, like, removing. Maybe even ancestral stuff, but I feel like it's your own thing in a way. And perhaps it's like the stuff that you've collected as a result of your journeys as the sojourner and your creations and manifestations. Like somehow that stuff needs to go and be renewed. But, or maybe like transform and digested into a new kind of wisdom or something. And I'm attracted to these white stars here in the moon. And I feel like there's a calling for the stars because they feel like they're bunched up together and feels like a family, like a soul family. And your advice cards are saying pretty much the same thing. So here the Seven of Stones says, to me at least, the core, the root of your emotion of loneliness is your need and desire, even if it's not conscious, perhaps an unconscious desire to connect with yourself and to feel who is it that you are? What do you want? What is life for you? What do you want to create? Because you know how to create, and you know how to consume, receive. But now it's like a time of but what do I want? Like something new, And that new thing has to be very, very connected to who I am. Okay. It has to be real. It has to be grounded. It has to be like all these green colors, like it has to be real to me. It has to be me, It's almost like I want to manifest myself, but first I need to find out who I am. And here we have the Council, number 11, and the Mystical Shaman. 3 plus 8, 11. Again, 11, 11. And I told you at the beginning of reading, and I started the reading at 11:22. And when I checked if it was actually recording, it was 11 seconds. I don't know. This reading is really, it has a lot of energy. I don't know. I want to laugh. So, the advice cards are telling you that, are giving you advice that, look, connect to your guides. I feel like you totally know how to do that. To your guides. Connect to your soul family. Connect to these stars here as I see. Connect to your ancestors also. Connect to someone who has, who's like this with you. I'm just holding my hands together. The relevant people, the relevant souls. Maybe it is an actual council or, only you know it, but connect to them, to connect to your guides. And I would start with my guides anyway. And the Mystical Shaman. Maybe you do it in an actual with actual shamanic practices. Very possibly you have this in your Akashic records, like in your experiences of your past lives. But basically this, you can do it in any way, of course, how you like to do this connection. But to me, this card says connect to your higher consciousness, make conscious something that is unconscious right now, but needs to be conscious. And that is a very, very big, important, deep, ancient part of you that now needs to come out and be alive and manifest itself in the physical by this girl. By you, all parts of you. Okay. So it says, hey, go connect with your guides. Go connect to the unconscious that needs to come out and become conscious. And then you're gonna see the arrow. You're gonna be like, oh, this is what I want. And I feel like this process is gonna be actually quite fast because this reading is fast. It's like, okay, the arrow, and then just shoot for it. Okay. Go find it, shoot for it. That's it. Even this looks like an arrow. And it feels like you can do it super fast and super easy. You're gonna be like, oh, okay, this is it. Okay. And go shoot the arrow go for it. The arrow is even showing to the girl. Okay, and these two cards are about like towards what kind of a goal or something, like, or what can you expect to feel or to find yourself in if you follow these advice cards. So here it's again very, very straightforward. I feel like, look, you're gonna know your past, but it's also blurred, but you're gonna be like, but I let it go. Just like, you know, the curse here. If there's anything to let go, you're gonna let it go. Just by connecting to who you are, to your guides, to who you are, to that really precious, precious, sacred part of you that right now wants to come out and manifest itself. And you already know how to manifest. And you already know how to receive. It's like, well, after you do this, you know, this deer feels to me like, this deer is so confident in who it is, you know? I am the deer. Okay, look at me. This blue color is like calm, and not lonely at all, but more like he knows where he is. He's home. He's like, I'm home because I'm me. I'm in me. I'm home because I'm me. It feels very comfortable, very much at peace, has his eyes open, directly looking at you, nothing to hide, nothing to be afraid of, just like, I know, I see, you know, I am, kind of like, I am, you know, and these horns, they feel to me like a deep, like a freedom of connection, a freedom of speech, freedom of choice. Like this deer has no problem communicating anything or manifesting whatever he wants, yet in like calmness. And like, I know myself, you know, I am. And this is very like, this card is very clear, but compared to this card, which is very blurry, boom, it feels like I also know my history, you know, I also know what has happened before. I also know my subconscious, or I also know my ancestors. I also know my past lives. I also know my past traumas. I also know my wounds. I also know, I know all these things about myself. I know my guides, you know, I know my environment, and the stuff that has transpired, I'm letting it go. I know it. I remember it. And if it was something like painful, let's say, this deer finds it in his magical deep core to forgive and let go. And the memory is still there. You're not erasing anything. But in the fact that it's blurred, it's like letting it go and just being yourself. And this card to me doesn't feel lonely at all. It just feels like I am. This magical word, I am. Feel like that's where you're heading. It's a really, really beautiful energy, beautiful reading. There's another video that I made on my other channel. It's where I share my deep diving into my feeling of loneliness, and I search for what's at the core of my emotion of loneliness. And in fact, that's why I created this video, because in that video, my guides told me, hey, make a picker card for this. All right. So if you'd like to check out the video where I use my shamanic practices and my psychic and physical perception to dive deep into my feeling, my emotion of loneliness, and getting to a state where I realize what I need to heal. I did it for the intention of, just allowing myself to be vulnerable and just sharing this process of how I dive deep, so that I know that some parts of that video will be relevant to others who feel the emotion of loneliness, and some parts will not, but the intention is to encourage others to dive deep without pain and suffering, with confidence that things can be changed, things can be healed, and we can find love, joy, happiness. I am if we go and become self-aware, more and more self-aware. So if you'd like, watch that video. And if you like this video, please click like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. Also, please comment if you resonated or not. I'd like to know what your impressions are. Also, if you'd like to book a shamanic healing session with me online, please email me at expansionscapes@gmail.com, and you can book your meeting with me through email. So I'm really grateful to connect to your energy. It was really, really fun, really strong, really powerful, uplifting, energetic. Thank you so much. I hope to see you again. Goodbye.